Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Driti Atri, and you're watching Skyline. Now, every day, thousands of Indians wake up with one dream a dream of studying in America. We keep on reminding them that dreaming of Silicon Valley, that's not bad. A dream that is building their future. For decades, the US has been land of opportunities for Indian professionals. From software engineers and doctors to entrepreneurs and researchers, Indians have helped build some of America's biggest companies. But today, that dream is definitely changing. Well, tonight we have 8 important stories from the US. These are not just headlines, though, these are stories about ambition, about success, tragedy, immigration, military service, and the challenges Indians continue to face while living thousands of kilometers away. So, let's start with our first story on Skyline. And again, I'm Driti Atri. Well, for the last few months, there has been one question on everybody's mind. Is the American dream bringing more difficulty for Indians now? Every new immigration announcement creates fresh anxiety. Every visa rule sparks another debate. Students worry about future. IT professionals worry about their jobs. Families worry about long green card backlogs. Many people even wonder whether America still wants skilled workers from India or not. But now, fresh official figures are bringing a very different picture. Despite tighter scrutiny and changing immigration policies, Indians continue to dominate America's H-1B visa. Now think about that for a moment. Even as companies become more selective, even as visa rules continue to evolve, Indian professionals remain the biggest contributors to one of America's most important skills sector. And yes, there is an important piece of good news. The latest figures also show that salaries offered to Indian professionals, it has increased significantly. Now the obvious question is, why? Right? Why are American companies still hiring so many Indians? Ladies and gentlemen, the answer, it is actually quite simple because technology runs on talent. The US remains home to some of the world's biggest tech companies. Artificial intelligence, cloud computing, cybersecurity, semiconductor design, healthcare technology, financial technology. Every one of these industries require highly skilled professionals. And for decades, India has produced exactly that talent. Every year, thousands of engineers graduate from Indian universities. Many work for global companies before moving to the US. Others pursue higher education in America and later they join the workforce. Over time, Indian professionals have built a reputation for technical expertise, problem solving, and innovation. And that reputation, it matters. Companies don't hire people because of nationality. They hire people because they need skills. And when it comes to tech, Indians contribute to remain among the most sought after employees in America. But yes, that does not mean everything is easy. Far from it. Many Indian consulting companies are facing higher visa costs. Students continue worrying about changing immigration rule. Thousands remain stuck in the green card backlog that stretches for years. Well, for many families, the journey does not end after receiving an H-1B visa. That's only the beginning. They face years of uncertainty while waiting for permanent residency. Some professionals spend more than a decade on a temporary visa. They buy homes, they raise children, they pay taxes, build careers. Yet they continue living with immigration uncertainty hanging over their head. And that is why every announcement about H-1B visas, that becomes a national news among the Indian community because behind every visa approval, there is a family. Behind every application, there is a dream. Behind every job offer, there is years of sacrifice. So in the end, the latest numbers sends an important message here. Despite stricter immigration policy, despite political debates, despite growing competition, American companies still value Indian talent. And that offers hope to thousands of young Indians who are preparing for their next opportunity abroad. But yes, while thousands continue chasing the American dream, one young Indian journey in the US, it has taken a heartbreaking turn. A single moment, a single mistake, and now 3 people have lost their lives. A young Indian origin truck driver, he is heading to prison. That's the next story, ladies and gentlemen. Now, our second story tonight. Every single day, millions of vehicles travel on American highways. Most journeys, they end safely. Drivers reach their destination, families return home, and life moves on as usual. But sometimes, it takes only a few seconds for everything to change forever. And this is one such story. A 22-year-old Indian origin truck driver has been sentenced to nearly 5 years in prison after a devastating multi-vehicle crash in the US that claimed 3 lives and left 4 people injured. According to the investigators, the collision it involved 8 vehicles on a California freeway after the truck failed to slow down in heavy traffic. Investigators say that traffic ahead had already slowed. Other drivers had reduced their speed, but the truck it continued moving at a high speed without brake. Well, the dashcam footage it later showed the truck crashing into a white SUV before slamming into another vehicle. It then crossed multiple lanes and finally crashed into another truck parked on the shoulder of the freeway. Within seconds, the highway turned into a scene of destruction. Eyewitnesses described the impact as sounding like a massive explosion. One witness said that the truck did not stop, it did not slow down, and it did not even try to avoid the vehicle ahead. Emergency team rushed to the scene, but for 3 people, help came too late. 4 others survived with injuries, while other families they saw their lives change forever because of one tragic moment. Now, the driver later pleaded guilty to 3 counts of vehicular manslaughter with the gross negligence. A California court sentenced him to 4 years and 8 months in prison, but his legal trouble it may not end there. According to the US Department of Homeland Security, that driver entered the US through southern border in 2022 and was living in the country without legal immigration status. After the crash, US Immigration and Custom Enforcement issued an immigration detainer, meaning that he could face deportation after completing his prison sentence. This whole case, it has once again sparked debate across the US. Some people are asking questions about road safety. Others are discussing commercial truck training and immigration enforcement. For the Indian community, this story is specifically painful because millions of Indians living in the US, they have earned respect through years of hard work and dedication. Incidents like this, however, it reminds us that one careless decision it can change countless lives in just a few seconds. 3 innocent people lost their lives. Several families were left grieving, and one young man's future it has also changed forever. Well, it is a tragedy from every possible angle. But yes, after this heartbreaking story, let's move to something far more inspiring. Our next story is about a young Sikh American who has made history in one of the most prestigious military institutions in the US. His achievement is not just a personal victory though, it's a proud moment for the entire Sikh community. So let's take a look now. Well, sometimes history is not created on the battlefield. Sometimes it begins with one young person refusing to choose between faith and ambition. This story is about one such young Indian American who has achieved something that many once thought was impossible. His name is Chirag Veer Singh Sarao, and he has become the first Kajtari Sikh American to join the prestigious United States Air Force Academy while keeping his unshorn hair and beard, the sacred articles of the Sikh faith. It's a historic moment not only for him but also for Sikh Americans across the US. And why only Sikh? Indians too. Well, for years, many Sikh believed that they had to choose between serving their country and following their religious identity. Military rules around grooming standards often made that difficult. But today, that picture is slowly changing. Chirag's achievement sends a powerful message that faith and service, it can go hand in hand. His journey to academy, it has not happened overnight though. It is the result of years of hard work, discipline and determination. On April 4th, Chirag received his appointment to the US Air Force Academy. Well, a few months later, he was officially granted a religious accommodation that allows him to continue serving while maintaining his Sikh article of faith. Just days after receiving that approval, he reported for basic cadet training and officially began his journey at one of America's most respected military institutions. But Chirag's story is much more than just religion. He has been an outstanding student, a leader, and an athlete for years. Before choosing the Air Force Academy, he received full scholarship from both Air Force ROTC and Naval ROTC. He was also accepted into top universities, including the University of Southern California and the University of Washington. Outside the classroom, he became an Eagle Scout, earning a second degree black belt in Taekwondo and completed in Waterloo. Hiking, skiing, cycling, outdoor leadership were all part of his journey long before he wore a military uniform. His achievement is now being celebrated by Sikh organizations across America. Many believed it reflected years of effort to ensure equal opportunity and religious inclusion within the US Armed Forces. Well, for young Sikh Americans dreaming of serving in uniform without giving up the identity, Chirag has opened a door that had never been opened before. His story reminds us that true diversity is not about asking people to leave their identity behind. It's about creating opportunity where talent, commitment, and dedication matter more than appearance. Well, from a young Sikh cadet creating history inside the US Air Force Academy, we now move to inspiring story. This time it's about 17-year-old Indian American girl who is already leading nearly 300 US Navy cadets, while most teenagers, they are still deciding what they want to do in life. That remarkable story is our next one. When we think of military leaders, we usually imagine experienced officer who had spent years serving their country. But sometimes leadership begins much earlier. Sometimes it starts in a school classroom, on a parade ground maybe, long before someone officially joins the armed forces. This is an inspiring story of 17-year-old Indian American. Her name is Driti, who is already leading nearly 300 US Navy cadets while still studying in high school. At an age when most of teenagers, they are preparing for exams or thinking about college. Driti is leading military drills, supervising training sessions, and managing one of the largest student leadership roles in her school's Navy Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, also known as the NJROTC. Driti studies at Benjamin N. Cardozo High School in New York. Today, she serves as Battalion Commanding Officer, the highest student leadership position in the program. That means she is responsible for guiding nearly 300 fellow cadets, ensuring training runs smoothly, in fact, mentoring young students and helping prepare future leaders. Well, it is also a responsibility that many adults would find challenging. Yet, she is handling while balancing her education and preparing for a bigger goal. And that goal is already within reach, by the way. Driti has secured admission to the Naval Academy Preparatory School, bringing her one step closer to joining the prestigious US Naval Academy and eventually serving as a commissioned officer in the US Navy. But her journey did not begin at the very top. Like every other student, she joined the NJROTC program as a freshman, looking for opportunity to grow. Over the years, she worked her way up through discipline, academic excellence, and leadership. She took on different responsibilities, led inspection team, organized academic competition, and participated in STEM activities. With every new challenge, she earned greater trust and greater responsibility. But what makes her story even more inspiring is the value that shaped her journey. According to reports, Driti says that she draws inspiration from the teaching of Mahant Swami Maharaj through the Bab Swaminarayan Sanstha. She believed that leadership is not about giving orders or holding power. Well, it is about serving others, helping people grow, and leading by example. Those values, she says, has helped her remain calm under pressure and confident while leading hundreds of fellow cadets. Story like Driti's remind us that Indian community continues making its mark across every field in America. Whether it is tech, whether medicine, business, education, or even the US military, young Indian Americans are proving that hard work, discipline, and determination can open extraordinary doors. Well, for parents watching this program, her journey is also a reminder that leadership begins with just small steps. One opportunity, one challenge, one decision to keep moving forward. Now, from one inspiring success story, we now move to a story that reflects the uncertainty many Indians face in the US today. Can you imagine spending 14 years building a life in America, building a career, buying a home for yourself, well, raising an entire family that you once dreamt about, and after that, well, losing everything because one job disappears? Ladies and gentlemen, that heartbreaking story is our next one. Now to our fifth story tonight. Well, for millions of Indians, getting an H-1B visa, that's not about landing a job in America. It is about building an entirely new life. People leave their home, move thousands of kilometers away, buy homes, raise their children, pay taxes, and spend years contributing to the American economy. They believe that if they work hard, their future will secure definitely. But what happens when one layoff changes everything? Well, that's exactly what happened to an Indian professional who had spent about 14 years building his life in the US. He worked at some of the biggest tech companies in the world, including TCS, Amazon, and Meta. Like thousands of other skilled professionals, he believed that his experience and hard work, it had given his family stability. But then, Meta's latest round of layoff, suddenly everything changed. The former employee shared his emotional side on LinkedIn. He revealed that after losing his job in May, the countdown on his H-1B visa, it has begun. Under the US immigration rule, most H-1B workers, they generally have only about 60 days to find another qualifying employer, changing their immigration status or leave the country. Despite searching for weeks, he could not secure another job in time. That means one heartbreaking decision. He had to pack his bags, in fact his family, his dreams, and move back to India. Can you imagine what that really feels? 14 years in one country, 14 years of memories, children growing up there, friendship building, a career successfully created over more than a decade. And then within just a few weeks, everything has been packed into boxes because of what? Immigration rule? In his post, the former Meta employee described the past several weeks as an emotional roller coaster. He spoke about hope, disappointment, anxiety, and endless waiting while applying for a new job. Well, he also admitted that his immigration status had become the biggest obstacle in every conversation with potential employer. Even when opportunity existed, the limited time available under visa rule made the hiring extremely difficult. Now, his story quickly spread across social media because thousands of Indian professionals could relate to it. Every year, many skilled workers spend years waiting for employment-based green card while continuing to live on temporary visas. Immigration experts have often pointed out that this whole system leaves many families vulnerable. One unexpected layoff, it can suddenly place an entire family's future at risk. Well, the story is not just about one employee. It's about a system that affects thousands of highly skilled workers, people who contribute to the American economy, people who pay taxes, people who build businesses. Yet many continue living with uncertainty because their legal status that depends on their employer. Well, for many Indians watching tonight, this story is a reminder that success abroad, it often comes with challenges that are not always visible. And yes, while one Indian professional struggled to stay in America, another Indian was trying to enter the US. His visa interview lasted less than a minute. That's right, the answer, it was simply a no. So let's find out why it happened. Can you imagine preparing for months, collecting every required document, receiving sponsorship from your company, practicing interview question, walking into the US embassy feeling confident, and then in less than 1 minute, your visa is rejected? Well, that's exactly what happened to an Indian applicant whose experience has now gone viral on Reddit, triggering a massive discussion about the US visitor visa interview. According to the applicant, he had applied for an B1 and B2 visa because his company wanted him to travel to the United States for business meetings and a conference. He believed that everything was in place. His employer was sponsoring the trip. He had a stable job in India. He carried all the required documents and expected the interview to be very straightforward. But things did not go as expected. The visa officer asked only a few questions. What is the purpose of your visit? Where do you work? Have you traveled internationally before? After that, the applicant answered honestly, he said that he had been working with the same company for about 3.5 years. He also admitted that he had never traveled outside India before and that this would have been his first international trip. Moments later, the interview was over. His application was refused under Section 214B of the US Immigration and Nationality Act. The applicant was shocked. He later wrote that his company had sponsored the visit and he had all the supporting documents. He even wondered whether applying for a combined B1 B2 visa instead of only a business visa had affected the decision. But according to him, the officer never even looked at many of his documents that he had carefully prepared. Soon, thousands of people joined the discussion online. Many Reddit users, they explained that US visitor visa decision, it often depends on one important question. Will the applicant return home after the visit? After that, several users suggested that factors such as no previous international travel, age, in fact, personal circumstances may have influenced the officer's decision. Others pointed out that very short interviews are actually common at the US embassies and do not necessarily mean that the decision was made unfairly. Immigration experts also explain that refusal under Section 214B usually means that the applicant could not sufficiently demonstrate eligibility for a non-immigrant visa. Well, for visitor visa, officers must be satisfied that the applicant intends to return to their home country after completing the visit. Now, this whole story, it is an important reminder for anyone who is planning to apply for a US visa. A company invitation alone, it does not guarantee approval. Supporting documents alone do not guarantee approval. Every application is assessed individually, and visa officers, they evaluate multiple factors before making their decision. Well, for many applicants, the interview lasts only a few minutes, sometimes even less than one. But yes, while some people struggle to enter the US, others who are already inside the country receive protection under a little-known immigration program designed specifically for crime victims. We'll explain that in our next story, ladies and gentlemen. Now, our seventh story tonight. When people think about US immigration, they usually think about H-1B visa, green card, or maybe student visa. But yes, there is another immigration program that a very few people know about. It is designed not for skilled workers or students, but for the people who have already become victim of serious crime while living in the US. Imagine this, you become the victim of a violent crime. You help American lawmakers investigate the case, you cooperate with the authorities, but at the same time, you are worried that you could lose your legal status or even be forced to leave the country. Well, to address situations like these, the US has now created a special protection under the EU visa program. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the latest information from the US Citizenship and Immigration Services, people who file Form I-918 and qualify under the agency's terms, well, they may receive temporary protection and work authorization while waiting for the final decision on their EU visa application. Now, this does not mean the person automatically receives a EU visa, and it does not guarantee permanent legal status. Instead, it gives eligible candidates temporary protection while their case moves through the immigration system here. But why is that important? Because the number of EU visa issued every single year, that's limited. Thousands of applications remain pending for years without temporary protection. Many victims can be left without legal status while simply waiting for their cases to be processed. And that is why in 2021, USCIS introduced the bona fide determination process. Under this system, if officials determine that an application appears genuine and meets the requirement, well, eligible candidates, they can receive deferred action and an employment authorization document, allowing them to legally work in the US for up to maybe more than 4 years while waiting for the final decision. The program also extends to certain eligible family members who are already living in the US. However, immigration experts caution that beneficiaries should avoid leaving the country because international travel could complicate their ability to return while their application remains pending. Now, this whole program highlights another side of American immigration system. Well, it is not only about attracting skilled workers or maybe students. It also includes protection for victims who help law enforcement bring criminals to justice. For anyone who is living in the US, understanding these legal protections, it can make a significant difference during difficult circumstances. And yes, speaking of differences, our next story tonight has sparked a completely different debate. Not about immigration, not about visas, but about family values. A short video has divided millions of people across social media, specifically Indians. Our final story tonight is not about politics, it's about immigration. It's about something much more than personal family value. A short clip from an American financial advice program has gone viral across social media, specifically among Indians. The discussion began after a 56-year-old American woman called into the Ramsey show seeking advice. His father, who is 88 years old, had asked her for financial help to clear nearly $55,000 in debt. The amount, it included credit card debt and a car loan. At first, the situation looked ordinary, but then came the details that shocked millions of viewers. The woman revealed that she and her husband, they were retired, debt-free, and had a net worth of about $2 to $3 million. However, she explained that most of their wealth was tied up in retirement savings and that she did not want to withdraw that money to help her father. Instead, she wanted advice on how to politely refuse to the request. Within hours, the video spread across social media, but what happened next? It was even more interesting. Thousands of Indians began reacting to the clip. Many said that they simply could not understand why somebody with such a significant wealth would hesitate to help an elderly parent. Comments quickly flooded the social media. One user said that if you have $3 million, you can't help your father, you have lost a life. Well, another one said that my Indian brain cannot comprehend this. Many users compared family traditions in India and the West. Some argue that Indian families often see financial support as a shared responsibility across generations, while others said that every family situation is unique and financial decisions are deeply personal. Well, the whole discussion soon became much bigger than one family's discussion. It is about a debate about culture, about responsibility, about independence, and about what children owe their parents. Well, there is no single answer to this. Some people defended the woman's right to protect her savings. Others believe that helping a 88-year-old father, it should be the priority. Perhaps that is why this story resonated with so many people. And with that, we come to an end of tonight's Skyline. Ladies and gentlemen, we discussed different aspects of Indians who are living in the United States. I'm Driti. This was Skyline, and I'll see you in the next episode.